Hello. The Divine Code reading for August 7th, pages 121 and 122. This is beginning chapter 8, Obligatory Moral Conduct. And in obligatory moral conduct, we have certain things we are supposed to do. It's just proper to do. One aspect of it is in order to become a better person. There's also obligatory conduct that involves, it's more under the auspices of the commandment to provide courts of law and to make a world a settled place. So there's that aspect of the way that we're supposed to behave. In this chapter, I have a note from one of the rabbis that taught a class on this. The way a person projects himself into this world is how he becomes. So this chapter is speaking of becoming a certain kind of person. So if I'm going to become a certain kind of person by doing things the way I interact in the world. If you tip the waitress generously, you become a generous person. The fact that in tipping the waitress generously helps to benefit the internal values of the person doing the tipping. And that's what we're trying to internalize good behavior and good parts of oneself, and to minimize things that are not as good. Topic number 1. Every person has natural traits, and there are other traits that one acquires by regularly habituating himself to act in these ways. A person must always evaluate his traits and strive to bring them towards the correct path. So there needs to be, on a regular basis, some people might say, okay, at a certain point in the evening, think about the day. Think about what I have done, what we have done on a given day, sort of like writing it down in a journal or a diary. You know, go through and think, okay, the events of the day, where did I do something proper? Where did I do something that wasn't as proper? Keep track of it and think, okay, how can I do it better? On the footnote, this chapter is collected from Rambam's Laws of Attitudes. That's Hilkot Deot. And Deot is often translated as religious, but it's the behavior of the person. It's the way we try to act in a moral manner, or act in what would be considered a religious manner. Yeah. According to religious in the sense of thinking about the proper ways that we should act, and maybe thinking of how Hashem is. Hashem is a certain way, and therefore I should try to be that way. The attributes that the God, such as the attributes of mercy, I should try to make that into myself. That's what they're talking about here. How so? One must especially strive not to become angered or to be an angry person, for these traits are despicable and they destroy one's life. Therefore, the sages taught that anyone who gets angry suffers the departure of his intellect, and this type of life is generally lacking. There's a story that Moses at one point got angry when um, when they had a war and they were told that this particular group of people had to be wiped out, and they didn't wipe everyone out. They thought we're going to keep we're going to have the spoils of war. So when the army came back with the spoils of war, Moses got upset with them for not doing it properly, and his intellect suffered, and he forgot certain parts of the Torah as a result of getting angry. If one is naturally an angry person, he should train himself not to get angry at all, and he should force himself to act with humility and patience towards others by habit until he permanently acquires these good traits. Likewise, with other character traits, one should evaluate himself truthfully and determine if he acts like a righteous person would. And he should correct himself to act in such a way that finds favor in the eyes of God and in the eyes of other people. So we should just constantly be doing this accounting and try to work each day. Try to work on these things within ourselves and the behavior that we do, the way we behave with other people is the major way that we will develop these traits. Another way is through prayer. But when we interact with another person, it becomes much more, that's sort of where the rubber meets the road. And prayer, as beneficial as it is, doesn't have that extra level of strength. Prayer helps to define who we are as a person. It helps to develop our character traits, but actually doing it with other people that's what puts meat on the bones. Topic number 2. A person should not be a buffoon or constantly despondent. Rather, one should be happy and should greet others with a happy countenance. Similarly, one should not be greedy, rushing for wealth or possessions, nor lazy or an idler from work. Rather, one should look upon others with a favorable eye and be favorably looked upon by others. One should not have a quarrelsome or envious, jealous temperament, or be possessed by desires or pursue honor. The sage Rabbi Eliezer Akapar said in Tractate of Ethics of the Fathers 4:21, envy, lust, and honor-seeking drive a person from life in this world. So these are all different characteristics, different aspects of the person that needs to be developed, and things that need to be avoided also. Topic number 3, if a person has one of these bad traits, how should he refine himself? One should habituate himself into the correct traits until they become habitual for him. He should force himself to perform actions that are morally and logically correct many times, until these examples are easy and the correct traits are set into his soul. For example, in regard to that which we have written previously about the bad trait of anger, he should train himself that if he is hit or cursed, he should not arouse his anger at all. That is, he should not always answer back or fight about this, but he should accept it silently, even though it's against his nature. He should habituate himself to do so until the anger is removed from his heart. So when we're making that accounting, at the end of the day, or that's will be probably the easiest way to do it, but when we do an accounting of the actions that we've done in a positive manner and the actions that we need working on, when we find those actions we need working on, many times we'll have to do things that take us outside of ourselves. Because if I'm inside of myself, I'm doing these character traits that are not correct, and therefore I have to take myself out of myself. I have to do things that are beyond my normal things I would normally never do. For example, in my life, I tend to be judgmental, and one area where that would come out, if I see a panhandler, I'd be like, I ain't dealing with this. There's something wrong with this person. He's got different life issues that I don't feel it's right that I should give him money. I need the money better than he does, because I'm making these judgment calls on him. Well, that becomes for myself, that became it's a character trait that needed working on, and constantly needs working on, because in my nature, I tend to be very judgmental and looking down on other people. And one way that I would go outside of myself would be to actually hand the panhandler some money, have some dollar bills, and if I see a panhandler, hand him a dollar bill, wish him a nice day. And that is so against my nature that it causes a shock in myself and forces me to slowly change who I am on the inside. And that's something that we all need. I mean, I need it. We all need areas in our life, and it's different for each person. That's why we need the accounting that we make for ourselves. It's different for each person, and we need to figure out the areas that each individual needs. What I need to figure out what I need to do in these character traits, and I need to work on things that will change, kind of, mold it over in another direction. Sort of like bending an iron bar. It takes a lot of work, and eventually it goes in the direction that you're putting the work into. Likewise, one who is a buffoon and wastes his time with foolish jokes and lightheartedness, which have no benefit. This is not a person that's being a fun guy, but it's a person that does it to an extreme where it's becomes an unhealthy character trait. Oh, and all these character traits, within their correct measure, could be a positive thing for each person to have. A measure of anger in its proper manner can be a very positive thing. It's that anger gets so out of hand so easily is why we have to be extra careful with that. Yeah, so for the person that is joking around, some joking around is okay, but you get some people that are just their character trait of joking around is to the extent that it's unhealthy and it needs work. That person should distance himself from his friends who have these habits. And if he should come into contact with them, he should close his mouth and stop from saying his usual foolish words. Instead, he should regularly act with seriousness, the opposite of his previous foolish ways. And all these examples are that. It's examples that help us, we can plug in whatever we need work on, we can plug it in to these ideas. If the person drinks too much, he should stay away from the bar. If the person has lust issues, he needs to stay away from the situations that comes up in. Topic number 4. It is forbidden for a person to tell lies or to act in a smooth-tongued and luring manner in order to deceive or persuade. One should not speak one thing outwardly and think otherwise in his heart. Rather, his inner self should be like his image that he shows to the world. He may not deceive people, and instead, he should always pursue truthfulness. And this is an area, the person is just a habitual liar. Now, in all these character traits, there's moderate mannerisms to them, moderate aspects to them that can be considered a positive character trait. Sometimes it's proper to say something that I don't necessarily agree with, but I say it for a positive reason. One example is if a person is at a wedding, and if he doesn't think, in his mind, he doesn't think that bride, was the best. He should tell the groom positive things about the bride. Not in an absurd manner, but in, finding things and within reason, finding things positive to say. And that would help the groom to see those things in his bride. That's good for him, but it's also good for the person making the statements, even though it might be considered lying to some extent. It helps him to become a better person in the way he interacts with people. The way he's interacting with the groom, in that case, is positive. But if he's, the caricature of a used car salesman or a politician who's just telling lies just because he wants to get his way and he doesn't care, he's hurting people and it doesn't matter. That kind of person, we need to not be that person. We need to be proper in the way we're interacting with other people in the area of telling the truth on a regular basis. That needs to be our character trait, is to tell the truth. Topic number 5. A person should direct his heart and his totality of his behavior to one goal, which is becoming aware of God and searching to be close to him and his just ways. How so? When involved in business dealings to make a profit, one should not think solely of gathering money to be rich, and certainly not just to hoard money for no purpose at all, as it is with the ways of the stingy. Rather, he should earn his income with righteousness and honor, and his goal in this should be to have a healthy and strong body, to provide for the members of his household respectfully, and to do charitable deeds with his money that are logically expected for his good and the good of others. So this would be an example that the idea at first is that he wants to be aware of God and searching to be close to him and his just ways. So God, there's attributes, there's character traits that God projects. Now God, it would be, we really can't say that God is something. We can't say, as it's sometimes understood in our culture, people might say God is love. But that's not really accurate. God could do things that are not loving, like the earlier mention of when Moses was commanded to have the Israel to wipe out a city and not to save anything from the city, destroy everything. That would not necessarily be what most people would think of as a loving thing. But the normal character trait, God will associate with the character traits such as love, and everything in its correct proportion. That's the way we can see. We learn this out from seeing how God interacts. God chooses to interact with a particular character trait. Those are character traits that we need to emulate. And it needs to be, here is talking about the money. This is an example. The money, he needs to really be thinking why. All of us need to be thinking, why are we working our job? Why are we doing business activity? What is our motivation? What is our goal? What are we going to do with what we're doing? And this is how we associate with the godly character traits. Likewise, all his other actions should be intended for this goal. And he should not do things without any reason at all, or for vain reasons. As Solomon the Wise said, in all your ways you should know him, and he will strengthen your ways. Meaning that you should think through your actions before they are taken, in order that they should definitely be for the good of doing the will of God. With this effort, God will illuminate the correct path for the person and will bestow success in it. So our goal in activities, in human endeavors, the things we do we need to be thinking what it is that God emulates, and what it is that God associates with, and we need to search out ways to be like that, to emulate the character traits that God associates with. That should be our motto. Thank you.